Wolff shipyard, as Titanic began to take shape, a great sense of pride and excitement was building among the workers.
What's that face about?
The Olympic.
What about the Olympic?
You know they're laying down our keel tomorrow.
Aye.
Our gang's only being sent to do the shore and other.
So what?
Oh, come on, Alfie. She's going to be famous all over the world.
So is Titanic. And Mr. Frost says our crew's going to be fitting Titanic's engines.
Well, Olympic's going to be built first.
So what?
Just the ship that matters.
My arse.
She is too. Olympic's going to be the ship that everyone talks about.
Right.
First to start building, first to be launched, first across the Atlantic.
Titanic's going to be a mighty ship that no one remembers.
The yard was full of expectation, the new gantries waiting for the ships to rise within them. Barely 3 months later, Titanic's own keel was being laid.
Gently, Doctor.
A gigantic steel spine to support her 880-foot length. The keel plate stood the height of a man, easily reached by the 7-ton riveting machine suspended from the gantry. The wooden blocks beneath were carefully angled, ready for the eventual launch. Even as the great ship's skeleton began to take shape, her designer, Andrew Carlisle, clashed with Pirrie over his vision for Titanic.
Private suites, each one of which will comprise bedroom, bathroom, private sitting and dining rooms, all fitted out to the highest standards.
Yes, gentlemen, splendid though these plans are, we had agreed to discuss less exotic subjects today. Now then, gentlemen, I propose we install 16 lifeboat stations, 4 lifeboats at each station, giving us up to a total of 64 lifeboats.
Which would exceed Board of Trade regulations by some way.
As Board of Trade regulations stand. But given the size of these ships, we must surely expect them to demand greater lifeboat accommodation.
William?
I'm sure it's best to prepare for all eventualities. Now, if we look at the first-class lounge, the Palace of Versailles.
It had taken a year, but Titanic's skeleton was in place. Now it was time for her outer skin. 2,000 steel plates, 30 feet long and 6 feet broad, each one over an inch thick, weighing 3 tons. The plates were fixed to the frame with rivets, but the curving lines of the hull were too complex now for machines. This called for careful judgment and muscle power. 3 million rivets, red-hot iron bolts, would hold this ship together, 1,500 tons of them. In the yard, safety was always a concern. But higher up in the company, the design team continued to worry about the safety of Titanic's passengers.
Shape as you've been building for years, isn't it?
Francis Carruthers represented the Board of Trade to assure compliance with all safety standards of the day.
Yes, I'm not disputing the size. Colossal. But the hydrodynamics haven't changed at all. Long and narrow in beam.
Which is why they're known as the greyhounds of the sea.
Or coffin ships, as your rivals refer to them.
No time for joking, Mr. Carruthers. We're here to discuss safety, not aesthetics.
And these discussions, a year before Titanic's launch, would be critical. They would determine who would live, who would die, and they would cost the lives of 2 men in that room.
What would happen if she were in a collision?
And were to behold as a result? Well, I think I can fairly say that our new bulkhead door system is both revolutionary and unique. The damaged area will be completely sealed from the rest of the vessel, hermetically sealed.
In theory, she should stay afloat no matter what the damage. The ship is, in a real sense, her own. lifeboat. Nonetheless, I see you've allowed for 16 lifeboats.
16. I have made allowance for a great deal more than 16.
But 16 will meet the legal requirement exactly. Lord Pirrie knows that.
He has spoken directly to you?
Well, yes.
The provision of lifeboats, the entire design, is my responsibility.
After 40 years with Harland and Wolff, Carlisle was at the breaking point.
The regulations clearly show that 16 lifeboats is sufficient for a vessel of 10,000 tons and over.
Agreed, William. But these ships are 5 times that size. How on earth can we get more than 3,000 people into 16 lifeboats?
I've freely offered a further provision of 4 life rafts as well. We're now giving them more than their regulations demand.
Oh, the regulations are out of date.
This is a theoretical risk only, Alexander. The ships have been designed by you so that they cannot sink.
Don't you see, William? Any human design is fallible. Surely the first rule of safety must be to think the unthinkable.
And you are happy for our passengers to do the same.
What?
Has it occurred to you what they would think if the promenade decks were festooned with lifeboats?
You are concerned the passengers may be alarmed by the lifeboats?
In the numbers you recommend, yes. Our intention is to offer passengers the experience of a lifetime, not to frighten them so much they never want to travel on a White Star ship again.
So, this is one of your economic decisions.
These ships have to sail at a profit, Alexander, and I have to build them at a profit.
No doubt not having to provide a few dozen lifeboats will add a small but very welcome addition to your profit margin.
You know that's nonsense. Alexander!
Carlisle walked away from his brother-in-law's company. He would never design another ship. Titanic needed a new chief designer. Lord Pirrie turned to his nephew, Thomas Andrews, keeping Titanic in the family. The spring of 1910 saw the return of Halley's Comet. Andrews brought his wife to the yard as it streaked across the night skies over Belfast. A good omen for Titanic, he decided. And why not? The ship he was building was already the stuff of legend.
She's my ship now, Helen.
Titanic and Thomas Andrews would be inseparable to the very end.